are in Proverbs chapter 12, beginning in verse 21. And we're going to finish out this chapter hopefully today. And it begins like this. So verse 21, no grave trouble will overtake the righteous, but the wicked will be filled with evil. Okay, this is one of those things, this is one of those sayings, proverbs, scriptures, that you have to look at other things in the Bible to be able to put the proper perspective on the wording. What does the wording actually mean? Does it mean that no trouble will ever be seen by the righteous? No trouble whatsoever. And we've made mention of it before. You have Job. Was he not righteous? All right? Before you get to the book of Job, you get to others who are persecuted, and there are troubles. There are troubles. You also have Christ. There's no one more righteous than Him. And did He have troubles? Yeah, He was accustomed to grief. He was accustomed to being persecuted, and He saw it all the time going to the cross. Now, we see in the second part of this, but the wicked will be filled with evil. Now, that's being a slave to sin. That's what we might say being on a slippery slope, that you begin that journey and you just go further and further and further down, of being that slave, of being filled with evil. So we come back, no grave trouble will overtake the righteous. Well, what does that mean? That would have to be concerning the being filled with evil, yes. And also, I think we could also bring in that of the consequences that sin will just have. Now, we make mention of it every now and then. I don't know that we've mentioned it in this class. Perhaps we have. But every moral law that has been given to us, every moral law that's given to us absolutely looks like it works hand in glove with the laws of nature, with the laws of physics, of physiology, of all these things that make up, that compose the universe. That moral laws will never bring about any kind of repercussion, any kind of consequence from nature. It won't. Someone who abstains from alcohol, there is no disease because you stayed away from alcohol. It's not there. Same thing, someone who is going to be faithful to their spouse and has been living that way, doesn't have to worry about all the things that others, the immoral, have to worry about. You don't have to worry about it because there's no repercussion. There's no consequence for that. But someone who is, and it looks like, because it looks like the same one who created the moral law is the same one who created all of nature. Well, it's the same lawmaker. And what did you expect? What did you expect to happen? And how many people think that they can play around with some sort of, we'll call it fire, some sort of moral deficiency, some sort of immoral behavior, and think they're going to be able to just step out of that, and they're not. Or they think they're not going to be burned, and they are. How many? Well, it's countless. It's countless. And as we have as Scripture, God is not mocked. Whatever a man sows, that's what he's going to reap. That's what you're going to get. And righteousness, sowing righteousness, is never going to bring trouble in and of itself. It won't do it. But sowing sin is going to bring, that brings every sort of wickedness. That brings, sow the wind and you'll reap the whirlwind. Okay? Now, here is this righteousness are not going to be caught by the traps of Satan, and they're also not going to have the repercussions, not going to have the results from that of being caught by Satan, but the wicked always will. Now, you can turn away from wickedness and you're not wicked anymore. You can turn away from that and leave that behind you. Now we come to verse 22. Lying lips are an abomination to the Lord, but those who deal truthfully are His delight. In verse 17, we have that righteousness is declared from the truth. All right? Those that deal truthfully are His delight. Now, Proverbs chapter 6 and verse 17, going back there, we see that these 6 things are an abomination to the Lord. Yes, these 6 things, the Lord hates. Yes, 7 are an abomination. All right, you have that of the lying tongue in there and the false witness. Both are the same. All right, both are an abomination to Him. Now, we come to this. If your cause or your faith or something that you believe in requires you to lie, you've got a problem. Or I should say, that cause has a problem. It is by nature wicked. God will never lie to you, nor will He ask you ever to lie for Him or justify a lie for Him. He will not do it. As we have made mention, to lie is to devalue righteousness and be absolutely against righteousness and say that yes, sometimes there is necessary evil or necessary wickedness, that it must be, that for the sake of defending the truth, I'm going to lie. That doesn't even make sense. Okay? And Christ would never tell a lie to teach the truth, nor tell a lie to defend the truth. He's not going to do it. Now, if someone wants to, in a childish manner, say, what about the Proverbs? Are not the Proverbs a lie? No, they're not. They are, yes, a fictitious story, but they're presented that way as a fictitious story. But one parable. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. Thank you. Someone may ask concerning parables, aren't parables a lie? Well, no, they're not. It is a story that's presenting a comparison to something you don't know anything about. Something that you do know. You understand kings, you understand farmers, you understand vineyards. These things, now we're going to use this to help explain something you don't know. And they would know that when he talks about a certain sower went out to sow, and some seed fell on the wayside, they would understand he's teaching something. Now, it doesn't mean they understood it. Matter of fact, even his disciples didn't understand it. They wanted clarification on it. What does that mean? And why are you speaking to them in parables? But what we're coming to, but it also means that the disciples well knew he's teaching something. They didn't understand it, but he's teaching something. But it comes back around to this. If your cause requires you to lie, something's wrong. Your cause is not good. It's not good at all. And we have in a culture today that And it's a culture that has been around from the beginning of time, really. Once we get to a significant population on the earth, that they love the lie. That they want the lie, they don't want the truth. And we can look at someone like Cain. Cain is presented with the truth. Does he take the truth? No. He still resents his brother, hates his brother, and then kills him. Okay. Now, I have said that to bring to this. We read Proverbs 12:22 again. Lying lips are an abomination to the Lord. He does not want it. He doesn't want it from the wicked, nor does he want it from a prophet, nor does he want it from someone who believes that they are following him. He does not want it from his own Son, God in the flesh. He doesn't want it from him either. Lying lips are an abomination to the Lord. So, does this forbid lying? Yes. It's not the only place, but yes. And it shows that this word abomination, that's a harsh word. This is lined up with, going back to Proverbs chapter 6, with those who shed innocent blood. Well, that's an abomination too. So these are on that same level of these 6 things the Lord hates. Yes, 7 are abomination to them. And you have the lying tongue and the false witness, along with the one who sheds innocent blood. So, in my way of thinking, I can think, okay, murder is way over here. That's bad. Lying, okay, it's somewhere around in here. It's somewhere around here. It's not as bad as this, but God hates them all. He is against them all. So does that allow us any permission to lie at all? The answer to that is no. Not at all. But those who deal verse 22, but those who deal truthfully are His delight. Now we're going to compare with the Quran, because the Quran permits lying for the sake of your own personal protection or advancing Islam. Now, you may not know that, but it's true. And they try to sanitize the Quran so that it doesn't look that way, but it is. There are better translations of it and more accurate translations than others. But you have Surah 3:54. It says Allah, that's God, Allah is the greatest deceiver. All right, what does that mean? That means you're not going to lie better than Him. If He wants to lie to you, deceive you, fool you, oh, He will, if that's what He wants to do. Allah is the greatest deceiver. Also, Surah 16:106, you are permitted to lie if necessary, including to say, no, I'm not Muslim at all. Including that. If you think it's going to advance whatever you're doing, or it's going to protect your skin, or it's going to save you in some way, that it's okay for you to say. So much for martyrdom, for real martyrdom. Of course, Muhammad completely altered that definition of what a martyr is. His definition of a martyr is someone who is killed in the process of killing others. I mean, that's what a martyr is. Under Islam, yeah, it has changed. I take a suicide bomber, and the suicide bomber is going to get on a bus, and the suicide bomber is gone along with the rest on the bus. Martyr. Well, that's not a martyr. That's a murderer. A martyr, truly a martyr, is someone who is persecuted and killed because of their faith. All right, not by their own act of wickedness. That's not what a martyr is. A martyr dies for their faith. And if your faith is calling you to lie and to murder, we'll bring that one in, you got a problem. It falls flat. Now, how many people did Christ murder? None. He didn't murder. How many? What did he say concerning Peter's attempt to kill the servant of the high priest, Malchus? Okay, stop. Yeah, we're not doing this. And he said, if my kingdom were of this world, then my servants would fight. All right, well, the answer would be, they're not fighting, are they? They're not fighting. Therefore, what does that mean? My kingdom is not of this world. It's completely different. It's from heaven. That's where it's from. It's from heaven. And so they're not going to behave like the rest of the world at all. And they're not going to be the ones that are going to put the torch to buildings when they don't like something. They're not going to do that. They're not going to go out in a mob and kill people and take over a city when they don't like something. Nor will they ever get together in armies and go on crusades to go take cities and to kill people. That is not Christ. Never was, never will be. It's not. He never called for that. And he heals Malchus then and there, which is one of those, I've got a lesson about the hurdles that those who arrested him and crucified him had to cross, had to get over to keep this going, to keep this to where getting him arrested all the way to the cross. And there would be a miracle. Those that arrested him, they saw what Peter just did. They saw the blood that would have had to have been from Malchus's head. And then Jesus says, allow even this. And he heals the ear. Perfect. All right, Malchus himself would have witnessed that, obviously, and those who were there. Now, I'm getting off track, granted, but I'm bringing this out that God never calls us to do certain things. Never. Never to lie, never to murder, never to take up arms to conquer. Never. Take up words, His words, yes. To speak the truth, yes. Will there be resistance to that? Yeah, there will be. Now, coming down to verse 23, a prudent man conceals knowledge, but the heart of fools proclaim foolishness. Okay, this goes back to verse 16. A prudent man covers shame. A prudent man conceals knowledge. That's not all knowledge. A prudent man can be a teacher and teach something. A prudent man can have the truth and the truth of God, the truth of Scripture, and reveal that, teach that. This would have to do with things that need to be kept quiet. All right? Need to. A prudent man conceals knowledge, conceals things, covers shame, not a talebearer, but the heart of fools proclaim foolishness. All right? This would be slander. This would be the rumor mill. This would be revealing secrets, revealing things, and dividing people. And I have seen this before. And we have a more powerful way today, a more effective way today of dividing folks than I think ever before. More effective way. Of where there has been a problem in a local congregation and it could have been fixed. It could have been fixed. Of the parties involved, they can resolve this. They can resolve it the way Christ calls us to resolve it, either by Matthew chapter 18, or it could be that there are other things of where there wasn't really any, it was a perceived problem, not a real problem. It was just perceived. What this person didn't actually do that, or didn't actually mean that, or there was no intent, there was nothing, but it was perceived that way. All right, and so there is a problem that is there, and it could have been resolved, but someone has to go and post it. And someone has to vent things from a keyboard, and then you have others being affected that they don't know anything about this, and they're not even involved in it. Why do they need to know? But a fool is going to proclaim such things. A fool is going to proclaim foolishness. A fool is just going to blurt out whatever it is, and things get worse. Especially, I truly believe when you have two people who can come together face to face and see the humanity and the soul of the other person, things can begin to calm down. I thoroughly believe that. Now, obviously, there are vicious people who are just going to be vicious. There's going to be as Christ describes that of the swine and the dog. All right, don't cast your pearls before swine. Don't give what is holy before the dogs. But typically, members of the church are not like that at all. Typically, and what I'm getting at is some people are going to be very, very difficult to get along, or even impossible to get along because they don't want to get along. But someone who is proclaiming foolishness, it's just making matters worse. And I have seen it of where friendships, long-standing friendships, they're dissolved. And women weeping because of what was put online, and let's just call it foolishness, because that's what it is. Absolute foolishness. Everything being torn apart. A prudent man conceals knowledge. Can keep this quiet. Folks don't need to know this. If they do, then tell it. If they don't, and it takes some perception to do that, it takes some wisdom to know that there's a difference between someone who has a problem that they're trying to deal with and someone who's come to dispense a problem. All right, there's a huge difference between that. There's a huge difference in that. And knowing that someone who's, we will talk metaphorically, and that's what we're doing, someone whose house is on fire, metaphorically, someone whose house is on fire, and they're wanting help. Or someone coming in ready to start fires. There's a big difference in that. There's a huge difference. And knowing when to keep something quiet and knowing when others need to know. And we can see in 1 Corinthians where you have the household of Chloe has told Paul some things from Corinth because he needs to know. Does that make them foolish? No, it does not. They needed to know. You have Matthew chapter 18. A brother has sinned against you. What's the first thing? You go to him alone. If he doesn't receive you, you go with a witness. If he doesn't receive you then, what do? You take it to the church. That's what you do. And they, the church as a whole, helping out in this. That's the process. And of course, that's when someone has sinned against you. And that doesn't cover every kind of situation of someone who's just a false teacher. They're not actively sinning against you per se, that's somebody that's a different process entirely. That person needs to be known quick and stopped in their teaching. They need to repent, and they need to stop that. Now, verse 24, the hand of the diligent will rule, but the lazy man will be put to forced labor. Okay, so the diligence is man's precious possession. That's verse 27. The diligent, what is a diligent? The diligent is the one who's going to put in the time, put in the effort, put in the sweat, as we might say. Sweat equity is someone who's actually doing things that need to be done. This wouldn't be foolish things. This would be things that need to be done. The due diligence. Someone who is a lazy man is going to be negligent. It's not going to get done. And it may never get done. And I know from my own self that there are things I don't want to have to deal with. But I know I do. I don't want to have to deal with. And the longer I wait, the worse it's going to be. And also, if I go ahead and get into it, that usually I get into gear and I'll do it. Okay, usually I'll get into gear and I'll do it. But it's that bit of diligence of you really don't need to wait any longer in this. And you need to take care of this pretty quick. Now, the hand of the diligent will rule because they are getting things done, as opposed to someone who doesn't get anything done. The lazy man is the brother of the destroyer. That's what he is. The sloth is the brother of the destroyer. There is the one who didn't build the tower and the one who destroyed a tower. It's the same result. There is no tower. It's not there. The one who didn't plant a field and the one who destroyed the crops in the field, it's the same result. There are no crops. The lazy man is just as bad as a destroyer, and we'll get to that in time. But here is this, that the lazy man will be put to forced labor. Someone is going to make him do this. This is where his decisions have led him, and that's all it is. It's a matter of deciding for yourself, and that's what diligence is. It's deciding for yourself, I'm going to get this done or I'm not going to get it done. I'm just going to ignore it. I'm going to ignore it until it goes away, and it's not going to go away. Or, and you try to reason with someone of, when is this actually going to take place? When is this going to happen? Because it's not going to do it itself. And you can't count on elves coming in the night and taking care of this, because it's not likely that that's going to happen. It's going to have to be you doing it. And one can be envious. A lazy man can be envious of someone who's been successful. But they're successful. You can look at it because they've been diligent. By and large, now you can have a criminal, yeah, and we're not talking about them. We're talking about the diligent. That the diligent, they've got what they need because they're taking care of things. And I have witnessed it myself. And I think I've talked about this before, of you have two individuals, one who is extraordinarily talented at something, just phenomenal, but entirely unreliable. They might or they might not. Then you have someone who's, he'll do or she'll do. They can get the job done. It won't be as good as this one, but they'll do it. He, she might not. And so who are you going to hire? You're going to hire the one that you don't know if it's going to happen or not? Or are you going to hire the one where, yeah, they're diligent. They'll get it done. Could this other one potentially have done better? But, yeah. But what good is it if they don't? Nothing good has happened out of that. Now, lazy man will be put to forced labor, someone making that person do it. Someone making them do it. That it has to be done. And you know, I've seen it where someone, and I probably told this story not too long ago, where we were in Florida. There was a lot of homeless there because you won't, the weather by and large won't kill you. In the heat, you can get in under, you know, some kind of pavilion or under a tree. In winter, you're not going to freeze to death. But we would have someone come around, and they are living in the park or they're living on the beach, and it doesn't take long to figure out why that is. Most of the time, they are dealing with an addiction. Putting that addiction aside, they can keep a job, and they're not living at the park anymore. They now have the money to have an apartment, and they have the money to get a car. They have the money to get the groceries. They have those things. And here suddenly the hand of the diligent will rule. Diligent of where they're actually going to work. And someone is paying them because they are earning their pay. That's what's happening. And with some, they just went right back. They fell right into their addiction, and they lose everything again. All right, and it can be a vicious cycle. Now, I say that to talk about that of diligence. There's a promise in this. Diligence brings everything that's good. Everything about it. And being lazy, nothing good about that. There's nothing that's going to be good at all. And of course, the book of Proverbs speaks in numerous verses about the sloth or the sluggard or the lazy. Now, 12 and 25. Anxiety in the heart of man causes depression, but a good word makes glad. In here is just basic encouragement. And of course, Matthew 6, verses 25 to 34, we have Jesus saying, don't worry about your life. All right, don't worry about these things, but seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and these things shall be added unto you. But there are going to be times in our life when we're going to have to struggle. There are times in our life when this is going to be a struggle. Something is happening and it is worrisome. But trust in God to take care of it. Trust in Him to do it. That doesn't make it somehow vanish from your mind. But you're clinging to God through the whatever is happening. And here is, but a good word makes it glad. Yeah, just basic encouragement, basic words of kindness, some kind of show of kindness, sympathy or empathy, some show of compassion in this. And that's encouraging. Now, I said we were going to get through this chapter. Hopefully, I don't think we are, because I want to tell you something. And this is from going way back. This goes back to Jack Kevorkian when he was alive, killing folks, and the Hemlock Society. That if you wanted them to, I guess they're still around. They'll come by and kill you if you want them to. And this concerns It would be people who are infirm, or they may think that they have some sort of terminal disease, and with some of them, in autopsy, they discovered this person had no terminal disease. This person was perfectly healthy. So they were just depressed. Or they had a chronic disease, but it wouldn't kill them. Or they had something chronic, but they could have lived a good life, long life. All right, now here they would be called upon by people who are lonely. They have some problem in their life. Usually it was either a physical problem, or at least something they thought was a physical problem. And they are quite often lonely. They are alone. And the Hemlock Society would go and they would begin talking to this person. And they discovered, to their dismay, that just with a visit from the Hemlock Society in a conversation, they didn't want to die anymore. They wanted to continue. They had something to live for, that they could talk to another human being. And, well, that's not what the Hemlock Society is about. It's not about saving people. It never was. It's never trying to diagnose someone of can they be helped in another way. It never was. It's, you called upon us, we're here to kill you. That's what it is. And they decided as an organization that they couldn't do that anymore. They can't go and just have friendly conversations with their next victim, because their next victim will begin to want to live. They didn't want that at all. And so here is just this idea, but a good word makes glad. Here, just a simple conversation with another human being was all it took. Someone who showed some kind of sympathy to them and gave them some kind of attention. That was enough for them to want to live another day. They saw, I have a friend. Actually, you don't have a friend. But they saw someone as friendly, and life's worth living again. And we just come to this. Anxiety in the heart of man causes depression, but a good word makes it glad. Now, verse 26. The righteous should choose his friends carefully, for the way of the wicked leads them astray. And we can go to 1 Corinthians chapter 15, 33. Evil companions, wicked companions, corrupt. Evil company corrupts good morals. That's what occurs. You're around the wrong people a lot, you will begin to think a certain way. And it can be just gradual, but begin to think a certain way. And we can see just from Proverbs already, for the way of the wicked leads them astray. That takes us back to chapter 1 and verse 10. That don't be enticed by those who say, let us lie in wait for blood. And we also have that of the adulterous woman. And we have that of the perverted, who they are enticing them in. And yes, the righteous is to choose carefully who they are around, because you hear enough, you begin to change. Around them enough, you begin to change. As a change of attitude and a change of, well, just not so firm on wisdom anymore. And being corrupted by bad friends. next week we'll continue. Hopefully, we've only got 2 more verses in chapter 12. Hopefully, we can get through 2 verses next week.